Generally, when you think of the architecture of Belfast, you think Victorian, you think Edwardian, but there is one little corner of the city which boasts a couple of really fine Art Deco buildings. That's where I'm standing, just at the bottom of Royal Avenue, looking at the Bank of Ireland building with the old Sinclair's department store behind me, and with me Frances Hare from PLACE. And this is part of the area you're going to feature on your walking tour.
Yes, that's right. Well, we're pretty much standing in Belfast's best known little spot for Art Deco architecture. Belfast is mostly a Victorian city with actually a lot of 1970s quite drab architecture, but dotted around the city as well are some fine examples of Art Deco, and the Bank of Ireland on the corner of Royal Avenue is probably the most well-known landmark of that period.
And it is classically so, the very white limestone exterior,
the stone is called Portland limestone, so it's taken from an area in Dorset called Portland. So it's quite distinctive. You know, you see the white-ish coloured facade, and actually what's most eye-catching is the vertical windows. They're cast iron framed, painted green, which goes quite well with the oxidised copper dome on top of the clock tower.
And the clock tower is very 1930s.
Yeah, and your eye is drawn to it from the top end of Royal Avenue, so the silhouette it creates is quite distinctive on the city's skyline, and the little clock is quite a stylish Art Deco timepiece.
I love the idea of Art Deco. It was that wonderful period in the 20s and 30s when everything was new and urban and modern, and it transferred through all of life. You look at the lettering, because type styles and everything were different then, and just even the lettering where it says Bank of Ireland buildings.
What's great about the building is that, okay, it looks a bit shabby these days. You know, you can see some weeds growing out of the window boxes, but it has retained all of its features from when it was constructed. Above the main entrance, there's a woman's face in relief, and on the base panels of the windows, those little gold designs, I have read, are ears of corn. So that was one little feature of Art Deco, was taking reference to the natural world. So a lot of the embellishments on Art Deco buildings were references to natural forms and plants and sunbursts and flowers, and so that's one subtle little piece of design that not everybody might know about.
Behind us, actually, I'm going to ask you, Frances, to step out a bit. Let's brave the buses, because this is not just the Art Deco corner of Belfast, probably the busiest intersection for buses in the city. But if we look behind us, now I remember this very vaguely as a child, and this is what was Sinclair's department store, and it's classic.
It is classic, and it relates very well to the Bank of Ireland buildings facing it. You know, the two buildings almost address each other. It was designed as Sinclair's department store. Actually, the corner facade that we're looking at was added on later in 1935. The original building was built in 1926, and they added on this 5-storey corner triumph, which has got lovely bright red panels. Again, it's similar to the Bank of Ireland that there's a vertical emphasis. One of the hallmarks of the Art Deco period was steel-framed construction. So with the advent of steel, using steel in construction, that meant that facades could be freed up as purely a decorative element. So you see long, regular window frames made out of cast iron, and it's got the distinctive S between each floor, S obviously for Sinclair's.
We have an enduring fascination with all things Art Deco, the clothes, the jewellery, the pottery, particularly in ceramics. Clariscliffe, still eminently collectible. Why do you think it is that we keep on going back?
I think because it represents a really sort of optimistic, glamorous period in history. You know, it was after the war, there was a sort of post-war optimism, and architects and designers, they really wanted to portray that in buildings and clothes and furniture and jewellery. And even though as a style it only lasted for about 30 years, it continues to delight and interest people 100 years later.
Frances Hare of Place talking to me earlier, and those Art Deco tours of Belfast start on Saturday and run until the end of the month. It is fascinating, and for more information you can visit the website placeni.org.
Oh, Danny.